always fight for love in their childish way. I knew every type of love, but I thought of
If you want the thrill of love, she's been through the mill of love. Oh, love.
true love, every love but true love for sale.
Appetizing young love for sale.
Love for sale, please.
If you want to buy a wares,
Follow me, let's love for sale.
Greetings. Today, we like to say all praises is due to Allah for allowing me to have an early morning rise and a happy morning rise. Because I recognize what this day really means, that a whole lot of you celebrate as Easter, and not knowing the full meaning of what you're celebrating. But it has an alternative meaning to what most of you celebrate, as being the rise of Christ not a spiritual rise, but a physical rise, because Friday, last Friday, which they call Good Friday, I don't know why they call it that, but I got an idea. You're supposed to have been crucified. And the meaning behind him being crucified, they actually nailed him to the cross, physically nailed him to the cross, where he suffered and died, physically died. Then this day that they call Easter, he physically rose from the dead. And walked among his companions, disciples, his women friends. And then he actually rose physically into the sky. And this is why a lot of you celebrate Easter. But I'm confused why they call it Easter. I got a good idea why they call it Easter. But what I'm being really confused about is why they have Easter eggs. And why didn't they call it the Resurrection Day instead of Easter? Why didn't they call it the Resurrection Day? Also, the way he was found guilty and put to death is very confusing. I have a good idea of the truth, but he was merely expressing his freedom of speech. Now, he wasn't harming no one. He was talking about his father and telling the people to follow the commandments and the way of Moses and all the other prophets. They say he was raising people from the dead, physically raising people from the dead. That's confusing right there. If you ever ask that question, after physical death, have you ever seen someone come back in a physical form and tell you where they've been? And then why would they come back here anyway? And have you ever seen someone actually come up out of the grave and walk among people? And have you ever talked to anyone that was physically buried in a grave or a tomb and came up out that grave or that tomb now this supposedly had taken place approximately 2,000 years ago. And after the one they call Jesus, the one that they say was crucified, and then was risen and went to sit up in the sky with his spiritual father, whom you can't see, on the throne, and was supposed to come back to us in a period of time to actually really kill the devil and destroy the devil's world. The devil's called Satan in this period of time, in these modern times, because he has influenced all the nations on the earth to do wrong like himself. So we're not going to address that today, if it's true or if it's false. I be swimming upstream. I be swimming when I give my program against the flow, against the majority, against the masses. I don't have no constituents or no friends, not even the FOI. I don't have none of them viewing me. So I have very little following, 500 or so, 580, 89 or 88. I can't get was it 90? Anyway, it's not 600. It's been at that for almost a year. No one has added on their subscription. Also, I can't get the comment or the chat room to see who's actually tuning in. The likes, I only have 2 likes. So this tells me that no one digs my rap, you know. And today, I named this FOI class Rothschild versus Allah. Subtitle, Winner Take All. Because no one knows who the great Satan is. A lot of people say it's the United States of America. That's a layer or a segment of the great Satan. The great Satan actually is the one who created this modern day banking system and caused all the nations, mostly all the nations, to go to be unrighteous and to go astray and to practice corruption. And to bring all of man, which is the human, which is the black man, and all of mankind, which is the devil, the Caucasian people, to live unrighteous. Now, the white people, they're not going to buck too hard against the system of Satan, even though they know they are liars and killers, because a lot of them know that they are just casualties of war, because people forget that, black people forget that white people had wars, 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5, maybe more wars where they fought amongst each other, where they were killing up each other. Now, World War I was the really main war where they was actually killing up each other by the groves, using poison gas and diseases on each other. Unconventional warfare against each other. And the black man, he tried to join up with them, but they didn't want the black man with them. Black man wasn't satisfied uh, not joining up with them, but some of them said we get a chance to kill the white man, but they didn't want you to kill white man, so they didn't let you. A lot of you, they didn't let you have guns. If you joined the army or got in the army, they made you cooks and porters. You know, so no, you ain't gonna be killing up. You're not gonna be killing up white people, but you could join the army, you know, or the military, but you ain't gonna be. We don't want you to be having guns. Uh, and if you got drafted uh, in the army, mostly in World War II, like Joe Louis and Sugar Ray Robinson, you would just still being a entertainer, giving exhibitions, boxing exhibitions, and they wouldn't let a whole lot of you be officers. They didn't have too many black officers in World War II, but they gave you guns because you were fighting Japanese, brown people. But those brown people, they didn't hang you on a cross. But you wanted to join the army in World War II because you wanted to prove to the white man that you wanted to mix in with his society and you could fight. So he put you on the front line because he knew you had a point to prove, but he still discriminated against you and say, I know they told my father this, say, you out here to shine my boots, black boy. My father was drafted in the army and my uncle was drafted in the army. And when my father came back, he told me that's when he really realized how this America really was. And one of the officers, white officers, told him to shine his boots, black boy. Now my uncle, they drafted him, but he was a FOI. He had some rank in the FOI. But he got out. He crashed the plane, almost killed himself. And he was given orders, so he went against those orders, crashed the plane, and he had a dishonorable discharge for going against orders. But he was still in boot camp though. He wasn't. He was getting ready to go on the battlefield, and so he knew that. And by him being, now this was in the 40s, by him being in the Nation of Islam, he found a way to get out, but he got out with a dishonorable discharge. But he didn't care, And so it's hard for you to understand that you shouldn't blend in with this society, especially after you know the story of Jesus, the one they called Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, while he was crucified. And who did the execution and who set him up to be crucified. And a lot of you call yourself Jews and Israelites, Christians, Catholics. Now the Catholics, their dominion is Rome. The Vatican with the Pope. A lot of people say he the great Satan. No, he is Satan, but he's not the great Satan. He's an arm of the body of Satan. And a lot of people say, well, it's the Christians. You know. And they're the ones that say they, you know, the Ku Klux Klan and all them, they say they Christians, and they say they founded this country and they were Christians. They the left arm of the body of Satan. But who's the head of the body of Satan? I mean, press that like button if you want to know the truth about what I'm talking about. But before I get started, I continue on with that. I'm waiting on you to press that like button. Now, this ain't nothing about being anti-Semitic. This is just telling the truth. And if I was anti-Semitic, I would be against myself. But press that like button before we continue. In the meantime, I want to give you the true meaning of FOI, the oath that we take. While we drilling, we used to say, my word is my bond. I will give my life before my word shall fail. I am an FOI soldier in the Nation of Islam. My duty is to unite my people, Black people, and to protect the women and children of my nation. I will perform my duty faithfully, regardless to whom or what. My life and my death are all for Allah. I will be loyal and obedient to the Supreme Being, Allah, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. There may be a lot of Christians who's tuning in and they want to see, you know, they're curious to see what my title is about. the Rothschild versus Allah. A lot of black people don't identify with that word Allah. A lot of black people don't identify with the language of Arabic. A lot of people don't understand that language, the language of Arabic, originated in what they now, in these modern day times, call Africa. They don't understand that. They also don't understand that Hebrew and Aramaic are also in the family of the Arabic language, and that they are African languages that we now call Africa, but at one time we called it Asia. The white man in his history book never took you back that far in time. He only takes you back to the time you came over here, around the time, because he don't have the actual time, but he has the approximate time when you were brought over here against your will as a slave, which makes you also a prisoner of war. Just like the Palestinians are prisoners of war, the Israelis are prisoners of war. There's a whole lot of prisoners of war. But they don't classify us as being a prisoner of war. Just like the Hamas went over in Israel and took prisoners back with them. Hamas, rather. Excuse me for mispronouncing. I always have to think of Hamas, before I think of Hamas. They took Israelis, put them in prison. They went to another people's territory, which is originally supposed to be their territory, and took some prisoners, which they're fighting over right now. And Israel took some prisoners before that, when they went over to Palestine, it's Palestine's territory, and took some prisoners. We'll get to that later. Well, they took us from Africa, brought us over here against our will, and against our will made us serve them slaves for going up 400 years or better. Yeah, 400 years or better. They made us change our language, change our names. We couldn't read, write, get no education. they made us deaf, dumb, and blind. But they say they were Christians. Now, getting back to this day, Easter, what you celebrate, what most of black people celebrate. I don't care what the white people celebrate because they celebrate Easter, which is their holiday. But they tell you that they're celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, which they say is the Christ. And so when you were slaves, they would give you that day off from the plantation work, doing hard labor, so you could celebrate that holiday. Not knowing that it was all about you. They didn't tell you that Jesus was a black man. And they didn't tell you that he was trying to save them, who were the Jews and the Romans at that particular point in time. Jesus didn't come to the black man. He came to try to civilize the uncivilized Jew and the Romans. The Romans had conquered the Jew. And made the Jew second-class citizens of Rome. And he had conquered their the territory that they shared with the black man. And so a lot of people don't realize this because it's not being taught to you like this. And so they was bowing down to Caesar. And so when Jesus came to teach them not to bow down to Caesar, to bow down to Allah, because you can believe that's what he called him, Allah, because he was speaking Aramaic. Aramaic is also in this modern day times Arabic. Hebrew is also Arabic. When you go over, you can go over there right today in they land where they're fighting at. The Jews call him Allah. The Christians call him Allah. The Arabs call him Allah. Now you don't realize this also, that in those days, there were more black Arabs, who are the original Arabs, than it is these pale Arabs. These Arabs that you see over there now, they are the children of Cleopatra and Caesar, the Romans and the Egyptians. But back in those days, the Palestinians were black. So when Jesus, the Jews didn't want a black man schooling them and telling them that a black man is Allah. They didn't want that. So they plotted to have him crucified. And so they went and reported to Caesar, because he had a lot of snitches in his crew around him. They didn't know how he was meeting or where he was going to meet at. So, but they had a lot of snitches that went and told Caesar. Or Pontius Pilate, who was one of Caesar's generals, where Jesus was at. This is how the story goes. It really didn't happen that way. It really didn't happen that way. But this is how the story goes. And so, all because they didn't want no black man telling them how to be civilized and telling them to remember the laws of Moses. Now, Moses was a half original man, but we're not going to get into that history right now. And so, and Abraham. And so, you can see in the New Testament when they're arguing, when the Pharisees and the scribes are arguing with Jesus, telling Jesus that they, are down with Moses and down with Abraham. And Jesus telling them that if you were down with them, you would do the works and the commandments of Abraham and Moses. But if you would think about it, when Moses brought down the 10 Commandments, they were partying, having orgies and stuff, worshiping the golden calf. And when Moses seen them doing that, he got fed up with them. And they was arguing with Moses. Even his brother, Aaron, turned against him. So Jesus had to remind them of that. So they didn't like him talking like he was talking. So they went to Pontius Pilate and set him up and said he was talking against Rome, saying that he was a God and the Son of God. See, because Rome didn't want nobody. Rome wanted to be their God. See, Rome was telling them that they are, you know, that they was occupying their land, so they God. So, you know, we your God. So that's why they set up a court. That's why they brought, Judas had him captured, and they brought him to the courts of the Romans, and the Romans had a court date for him, set up, and Pontius Pilate questioned him, and, and he told Pontius Pilate, he said, look, man, I'm your God, you know, God is my Father, and so the Romans, they tangled with the black man, they knew about the black man, and they said, well, we're going to let the people decide whether or not you're if you're wrong or not. If they say you're wrong and they want to crucify you, it's going to be out my hands. So he told that he relayed that to them, that message to the head Jews, and the Jews, they had a thief. Because it was a custom of theirs to do it like that. They would have thieves and murderers and stuff that they're going to crucify, but they have to let one of them go if they sacrifice Jesus. So they sacrifice Jesus and let one of them go, and Pontius Pilate said, well, y'all, the Jews chose him. Now, the Jews, it didn't really go like that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. The Jews was happy, because when they freed Barabbas came back to them, was hanging out with them, and he was glad. But they never did try to save Jesus. So they said it was prophesied for everything to go like that. It was prophesied that you would have to go on the cross. They talking to Jesus and get crucified. So while Jesus, while he hanging on the cross, he stopped. He was up there pleading to God. He said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He telling God to forgive them, for they know not what they do. And he on the cross. Now, if he the Son of God, he wouldn't have to ask God that. But then later on, he asked God to take the cup, to pass this cup through his hand. Man, to take this, man, don't let me go through this, God. This hurt, man. I'm in pain. If it happened like that. But y'all not able to figure that out, that none of that makes sense. So now we are to believe that on this day that y'all call Easter, I don't see why they call it Easter if he was resurrected from the dead this day. Why not call this Resurrection Day? Was too many letters in the word resurrection? You just want to say Easter? And there ain't too many words, if you're trying to prove a point. And then everybody wear a cross, all the Christians wear a cross around their neck. They celebrate the death, Good Friday. When that cross is around your neck, you're celebrating the day that he was nailed to the cross. You're not celebrating the day that he rose from the cross. He rose from the dead. So you really don't need no cross. You don't really need no symbol to remind you that he was crucified and rose from the dead. All you need to know is that you are saved, right? But by you wearing that cross around your neck, this don't remind you that you are saved. That reminds you of pain and suffering. And if he went through all that to forgive you from your sins, then why are you in pain? Why are you still in pain and why are you still suffering? And why haven't he come back to destroy the devil? Because you're looking for a white man to come back. And that white man that you're looking for, he the one that's putting you through pain and suffering. He the one that's putting the pandemic on you. He the ones that's sending you over to fight in a war. He the one that send the police after you if you break one of his laws. And he don't do that for himself. If he break a law of God, where's the police for him? Because he done broke the law of God. So you ask yourself, do he really believe that he's a Christian? You ask yourself, do he really believe in God? You ask yourself, why did he lynch? Brought you over here as slave and lynched you, that was lynching you and made you a slave for 400 years of torture, raping your woman anytime you get ready, burning your house down, hanging you on trees. Have you ever put that into consideration? I mean, he even tell you in Corinthians or was that Leviticus? One of them uh, books. You shouldn't eat swine. You shouldn't eat pig. But this very day, you got people eating rabbit. You got people eating. Cause see, a rabbit, you can't to a rodent. Some of them eat squirrel. They kin to rodents. People eating shrimps. Tell you don't eat shrimps. People eating catfish. You tell you don't eat that. People eating ham. Tell you don't eat that. People eating ribs, barbecue swine. People, and he tell you that's the on the dietary that Allah put before you, and you got preachers eating chicken. Really, you don't supposed to eat chicken and turkey. You know, you really don't supposed to be eating meat. Period. But there are some meats. You know, there ain't nothing spooky about it. Just some meats are not good for your health, put you in bad health. And then you got some meats that are neutral, but are not really doing you any good. But they're not as bad as other meats. All meats are bad for you because they got worms in them. But the worst one of all got that trichiny worm that you can't cook out or kill, and that's the pig. The pig wasn't really made for consumption at all. Why do you think that a whole lot of Jews are kosher? They eat kosher. But a lot of Jews, you know what? They don't eat. They not eat kosher. I know because I hung around Jews for a while. You know, when you work in America, in Detroit, on 12th, on Woodward, downtown, the Jews on those establishments. Cleaners, the Jews own cleaners, markets, supermarkets. They sold pork. You know, and I worked for, you know, when I was a teenager. I worked, you know, in their stores, in their furniture stores, in their cleaners. And a lot of them, the ones I worked for, they didn't eat kosher. They ate pig. And they told me so. And they told me, they gave me a distinction amongst the Jews. I didn't know at that time there were Zionist Jews. We get into that later. But when the Jews sold his food, this was happening when I was a teenager. And we would go to the corner store to get some meat or something. He wouldn't give you fresh meat, pig. I don't care what it was. He wouldn't give you fresh meat. But he had a trick that he did. He'd wash his week-old meat, it could be more than a week old, down in baking soda to get the stink away. And he wouldn't clean up where he had the meat at. He wouldn't clean that up. Very seldom. And so, but we would go and patronize his store because at this particular time when I was growing up in the late 50s and early 60s, Hastings Street, where most of the black establishments was at, and they still practice like the white man practice. They ran a highway through, a expressway through where Hastings Street used to be, and that dispersed of all the black businesses. So a lot of black businesses was working. At that particular time, we were working for the factories. So we could afford to go on the west side, where the Jews had settled across Woodward. It was a little bit more better housing and a little bit more better neighborhood. And I was 10 years old when I moved over there on the west side. But all Jews owned the stores and the businesses. There were no black businesses over there at that time. And so we would go to the store and he would sell us rotten meat, but he knew how to wash it down and then put some artificial coloring in the meat. He wouldn't sell his, they had a ham place, right? I lived over there on Finkel. They had a ham place every Easter. People would line up, black people. You wouldn't see no white people there. But it was on Finkel, around Petoskey and Homer. Every Easter, they would be having lines around the block to get this honey baked ham. But in the Bible, it tells you don't eat that. Also in the Bible, it tells you not to gamble, tell you not to charge usury, which is interest. Now we're gonna come to our main topic. When you hear that word usury, this is where the title fits in at. The title, let me remind you of the title. Rothschild versus Allah. Winner takes all. Do you know what ethnicity or nationality are the Rothschilds? Press that like button now. I'm gonna make this so plain that the only reason why you can't recognize it, the truth, is that you hate. You don't want to admit, because a lot of you still, are down with the white man. A lot of you still bow down to a white Jesus and don't want to admit it. Now, a lot of you think that because you think that you're getting paid money, you're doing a lot of you do things because you think that you got money and you think that money, you got to live uh, to get money. And you put money before you put money before who you say you worship. You put money before, a lot of you say you worship Jesus, and you put money before Jesus. Every day you go to church, every day you go to church, or every Sunday you go to church, you think that you're paying, when you're tired, you think that money is going to Jesus or going to God, or you helping God do his work. But tell me, why is there so many homeless people? And you got all these vacant houses getting torn down. Can you answer that question? Why is there so many homeless people? Why there are so many when COVID came, when COVID hit, why did so many people lose their house and became homeless? Why are there so many homeless veterans? Why are there so many uh, people in jail? Have you think about that now? Just think about it. Do you are you one of those people who think that if you go to church every Sunday and give your tithes, that um, when you die you're going to go to heaven and be with Jesus or be with God, and you're going to see all your loved ones? You think you're doing the right thing because you try to follow the white man's laws. You pay your taxes. Uh, you don't drink. You don't smoke. You may eat a slice of ham or some chitlins or some chicken or what you're not supposed to eat. But that's how you was raised, see. And some of my people live to be in their hundreds, and they ate pork and bacon, and you know. But if they wouldn't have ate it, would they have lived longer? And while you're trying to eat, while you're trying to live long, anyway, if you're gonna go to heaven. If you think that heaven is gonna be a land of milk and honey, when you die, why aren't you trying to get there? Well, God said, don't kill myself. Why would he say that? You're killing yourself in other ways than going out to the clubs and party. You're killing yourself in other ways than uh, smoking dope, smoking cigarettes, smoking uh, or taking heroin or any kind of drugs, or being a sex fiend, catching sex diseases. Say you don't do all that. Say you don't fornicate, you don't commit adultery, you don't do none of that. You eat right. Okay, say you like that. But why you allow them to poison the water with chemicals? Say to yourself, before Christ, did they put chemicals in the water? Before Christ, they were living 1,000 years or 900 years, 700 years. Did they have chemicals in the water to purify the water? Were they eating seedless fruit, like seedless watermelon? Was they seedless, uh, any kind of fruit, seedless, even vegetables, seedless vegetables? When did they start that? But yet still they were living for 100 years, 1,000 years, you know? Why do you accept them selling you something other than uh, that which is original? Just because the Food and Drug Administration put a stamp on it, then it's good for consumption. But yet still your Bible say no. Every day you wake up, they're changing or alternating the food around, giving you something that tastes like the real thing, but it's not. Giving you something that looks like the real thing, but it's not. And you're not saying nothing. And when you learn the truth, you're too scary to do something about it. The white man put that in you when you was a slave. It took 400 years to make you scary. But it's in you now. It's in your DNA. You scary. So you instead of instead of taking it out on the one who made you that way, you take it out on each other. That's why you arguing and killing up each other now. That's why you are divided. Because you got the Baptists, they don't like the Seventh-day Adventists. The Seventh-day Adventists don't like the Baptists. You know, the Catholics and all like that. But you all, you know, y'all against each other. And even in the FOI, you got some that follow Elijah. You got some that follow Elijah and Farrakhan. You got some that follow Wallace, and some that strictly follow the Orthodox Muslims. And even the Orthodox Muslims are divided. You got the Sunni divided against the Shia, and you got the Shia divided against the Sufi. And I mean, they got a whole bunch of sects in the Muslims. Have you ever thought maybe that's why there's hell in the Holy Land right now that's happening as we speak? There's probably more hell today over there in what they call the Middle East, where Jesus is at, was at, where they was bombing last Christmas or Christmas before that. They bombed the hell out of Palestine, where they say Jesus is buried at. They didn't even have Christmas. But y'all over here that say y'all Christians, black people say y'all Christians, y'all say that y'all, in other words, y'all say y'all down for the Jews, the ones that's doing all the killing. Because y'all was taught to hate anyone that speaks Arabic, the language, and you don't know that these are your original names, your original language. So when you say Allah, you're talking about the Supreme Being. But the white man don't say Allah. His language is English. So he said God, but he really don't know what God really means. He say Jesus, but he really don't know what Jesus really means. And you don't either. So we're going to get into our subject. This is just a introductory to our subject, and I'm not going to finish it. But this is the FOI class. And I'm reading from my notes. It says, let me get my other glasses though. So I could read it right. A lot of times in my past videos, I'll be having these glasses that's outdated, and I'll be stumbling and fumbling over things. And I wasn't really trying to take my time anyway, but I'm taking my time today. If the white man runs the government, this is a question to y'all, to the FOI, and to my black people, especially the deaf, dumb, and blind. You may not classify yourself as the deaf, dumb, and blind. Oh, I got one more question too. If you know that the Israelites are conducting themselves, the Israelis are conducting themselves in this manner, and you know that the Jews and the Christians, or the Jews and the Romans, which are now Catholics and Christians, had Jesus, you believe that they had Jesus killed. Why would you name yourself Hebrew Israelite? The only reason why I can think of is that you are being paid off and don't even know that what you're being paid off in is not really money. So I'm gonna show you where you've been conned at, and I'm gonna ask a couple of questions. If the white man runs the government and the nation, does the white man follow the commandments and ordinance of that which he called God? They want you to believe the word is God. Now ask yourself, who, what, and where is your God's authority? Do your government, in other words, do your government follow the commandments of God? When he gave the Jews, the Israelis, Israel, he gave them 10 commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. Now, if you do that, if you steal, kill, commit adultery, whatever, you get punished for it by him, by the justice system. But when he does it, who punishes him? Just like right now. What's his name? Netanyahu. They say he's a war criminal. And they had him before the World Court. They had him before the UN. They had him, all these people. And instead of the America putting him in check, they supplying him with weapons of mass, weapons and money and everything. And he didn't went over there and just slaughtering people. Now he babies and children, he don't care. Now he even told you. He said Hamas, he told Hamas, he telling the public, he said Hamas is hiding behind their citizens. So since you're gonna hide behind them, we just gonna kill them. until you give us our prisoners. Now they say Hamas, been negotiating with the Israelis and the America to stop ceasefire so they can have a agreement on who gonna get the land. But Hamas is causing them, by them holding people hostage, Hamas is causing them to kill up all the population. Excuse me for laughing, but this is so. The excuse and the reason why they're giving the general public or people of the planet Earth is Hamas, won't give up hostages. So they're killing up all these people because Hamas is giving up, won't give up hostages. That's ridiculous, man. It ain't funny, but I'm laughing at who would fall for that. The only reason why y'all going for that is because you're scary. See, Master Farah, he ain't raising no scary people. A lot of y'all wouldn't even talk like I'm talking. FOI. Y'all ain't gonna talk like me. A lot of you Christians definitely ain't gonna talk like me. Y'all the scariest of them all. So who gonna put Netanyahu in check? He's above the law. He think he above God's law. This is why I named this Rothschild versus Allah. Because Netanyahu, Trump, they work for the Rothschilds. Okay, let's keep on going on. We'll get to that in a minute. So I say, who punishes you when you get caught? Stealing, killing, and whatever, cheating. The government punishes you. Do they get their authority to punish you, and they remain above Allah's law? Think about it. Like Netanyahu and Trump and Biden, Obama, Bush, Clinton, Nixon. The Rothschild clan are one of the main rulers of today's modern world. I don't even know if y'all still can hear me. Don't be mad because I call y'all scary. Y'all know y'all scary. Press the like button so I know y'all still there. Because my screen don't never say, right now I got 3 likes. I got 500 plus subscribers, but 3 likes. Maybe some of y'all ain't at the crib and y'all, celebrating Easter or whatever and don't want to be. But y'all gonna catch this on the rerun. Because, it's gonna go into a video. So I ain't gonna worry about that. Now I'm just gonna finish up. And then, we get to a later date. I ain't gonna have time to finish, today, but I want to get to the main body of what I'm talking about. Okay, the Rothschild clan are one of the main rulers of today's modern world. Their science of banking and the merging in with the political scientists and the theological scientists and the military and industrial scientists of war are the great Satan. The head of Satan is the Rothschild because they invented modern day banking. They are contenders of all of they are contenders of the creator and the originator of all of his laws. They operate outside of Allah's laws. So the tribe of Shabazz is manifested to bring justice. Listen to me good. The tribe of Shabazz is manifested to bring justice, freedom, and equality to all black men who are created in the nature and in the image of Allah. The tribe of Shabazz brought to the wilderness of North America in 1555 is chosen to enforce, to demonstrate the laws of Allah, the supreme being, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, who will destroy Satan, the devil, in his own way, in his own time. However, he wants however he wants. And there are more than one way to kill Satan. You heard that old saying, there's more than one way to kill a cat. You don't have to bring the mothership down on you. You know that Allah got more than one way. He got an infinite amount of ways to kill Satan and the devil. And it's all good. And this is the main reason we should declare independence of this world, separate from it, and unite under our flag of Islam, the sun, moon, and the star, and rebuild a righteous nation of black people, allowing no devils, using the messenger, the greatest messenger of all times, blueprint, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's blueprint. He left here for us. So if we separate, unite, separate and unite, you might not, you won't probably need to fight. And if you fight, because you are separating and building your own nation. In other words, if they come against you for wanting to get out from under their jurisdiction, and they come against you because they don't want you to build your own nation, build a nation of your own, and don't want them in it, your Savior will be with you. Let this be known. Your Savior will be with you. And let Allah sit on his throne. I mean, he's on his throne anyway, right now. And he's fighting for you right now. Why you think airplanes is falling out the sky? Every week, an airplane is falling out the sky. Why you think tornadoes is dancing down south like the Temptations dance when they be singing My Girl? Why you think that floods and fires are jumping off constantly? Why you think there's earthquakes all over the place? Why you think that hell, big as baseballs, is coming out the sky? They got objects that they can't even name just falling out the sky now. They don't know where it come from. See, that nothing happens without the permission of Allah. Remember that. So, we continue, and then we're going to shut it down for a minute. So, you know, when I say don't nothing happens without the permission of Allah, there was a time when there's a book here that I got. A lot of you recognize the cover. The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. Farrakhan and them don't talk about that too much no more. Now, some things Farrakhan did, you know, like when he was preaching like Elijah in the 90s, even in the 80s, no, well, he was with Wallace then. But after he got back from Wallace, he started preaching Elijah. That was in the 90s. Why you think Allah let him do it? Because Allah knew who he was. Allah knew he had a white daddy. They say his father was white. I mean, I don't know. I'm going by what they say. And he kind of act like it. So he's a half original. And then after he preached Elijah for a while, then after a period of time he changed up, you know, he backslid. In other words, he started taking you back into the white man's grip. Even though y'all conveniently got, say, those vintage Farrakhan tapes and videos And whenever it suits you, you put them up, you play them. So, but my point is, why he stopped doing it? Well, I wonder because he had cancer. I don't know where he's at right now. But you don't see him no more. And he's he's an elder guy. Allah let him live to this day. Because he had did a thing that we should do now. That thing was he introduced the Million Man March. See, just knowing the truth ain't good enough. Because action speaks louder than truth. You heard that old saying, action speaks louder than words? Well, action speaks louder than truth. But you scared, black man, I'm talking about the FOI. So you hide behind Farrakhan. But you're not hiding behind, some of you even hide behind Elijah. Elijah didn't, he didn't want you to hide behind him. He told you, if you're gonna hide behind somebody, hide behind Allah and the personal master Farad Muhammad. In other words, put him in front. And you're not hiding. But in order to worship Allah and the personal master Farad Muhammad, you can't be scared. Because Elijah said he's making gods. He's making you in the image of Master Farad Muhammad. That's what that letter, writing your letter, represents. You had to write like the messenger. Because the messenger was the chosen of Allah. The first to rise from the dead. Because what he do is he take the dead, turn them into gods. But you can't be physically dead. You got to be mentally dead. And he tells you that he's the God of the living, not the God of the dead. So when you want to die, and you think you're going to, and when you physically die and you think you're going to heaven, he's not your God no more. He can't do you no good when you're physically dead. He can't save you when you're physically dead. But he can save you from a mental death. And that'll save you from a physical death. It'll prolong your time. So one thing that Farrakhan did was he had a 1,000,000-man march. But Farrakhan punked out to the enemy. And if you don't, this will happen. If you don't do the 1,000,000, wait a minute. And if you don't, this will happen to the majority of black people. In other words, don't give in, because this will happen to the majority of our people. You won't have Allah's Jesus, the Messiah. You won't have the Savior, the Christ, the Mahdi, Master W, the Farad with you. In other words, what I'm trying to explain to you is action speaks louder than truth. That 1,000,000-man march was a good idea. Farrakhan was supposed to unite all those brothers that was at the mall into the Nation of Islam under the Star and the Crescent. Because all types of people, black people came, Christians, the gangs, the Bloods and the Crips were there, all different types of organizations, even those that follow Wallace, even those Orthodox Muslim came. And yeah, there was a lot of brothers there. It was more than 1,000,000. But Farrakhan punked out. And I could tell by the back then, I couldn't tell back then. But now I can tell that when he named the 1,000,000-man march the Holy Day of Atonement, now I figured out why he named that. Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Allah atoned us when he first came here in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. He forgave us of all our sins of the white man put on us. So he didn't have to have no Holy Day of Atonement. All he had to have was a 1,000,000-man march and to unite 1,000,000 man, whoever was there, into their own nation. They were supposed to separate and unite into their own nation and go back to their cities and take their cities over by separating from the white man economy, just like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was doing. He was using the currency of the white man, the Rothschilds, to build up all of his businesses. But he was also going overseas to get his product. And he also got some money from overseas. This is why they had to, when John Elijah Muhammad, when he died, this is why they had to go inside the nation and get some hypocrites to take it over. And every last one of the Muslims, FOI, turned hypocrite. They said, well, no, a lot of us didn't go with Wallace. Yeah, but you didn't take over with Wallace before he could sell everything, get rid of everything that the nation owned. Didn't nobody object to that. So y'all let him take over all the nation's assets. Y'all let him do it. And then when he did it, y'all didn't try to start him back up again using the same blueprint that Elijah did. That's been 50 years ago. And y'all still talking Elijah, but you're not separating from mentally separating and economically separating by using his dollars. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told you how to do it. You recycle that dollar within the neighborhood or your community 10 times. Before you let it go outside the community. So you start with your family. And then you got to quit selling drugs to your people. Because if it ever was a time when you have to have able-bodied men to help you fight, your people going to be alcoholics, dope fiends, sex fiends. You know, you can't fight like that. So he's shutting down your ability to go overseas now. You ain't able to go overseas no more. He's shutting down your ability to have freedom, justice, and equality. You're not going to be able to spend money like you used to. He's changing the money. See, these are the things that he's attacking you with. Food, water. If you look over in Palestine, you'll see him doing that. Food, water, shelter, heat, communication, land, medicine, knowledge, and the worshiping of Allah in your proper way. Why? Because you are a coward, an unbeliever, and Allah can't trust and befriend one who sides with Satan. You might believe in truth, but before we've been afraid to act on it. This is why it's a call to action. Action speaks louder than words and louder than truth. Easter is a reminder of those who speak the truth. They get nailed to the cross. This shuts down most activity and activists because most people don't want to, lead this government because they're scared and don't want to get nailed to the cross. But if you act in unity, it's harder to nail a fist. See, when you do this, that fist is stronger than this. You can't hit a man. You'll break your finger if you hit a man. If you smack a man with your finger. So, but if you do this, you'll knock his ass out. If you do this, he'll take that one finger and break it off. So you only have four fingers to work with. That's how he's doing you now. He's plucking you off one by one by dividing and conquering. So you scared to speak. You're scared to speak action. You're scared to do any action because you don't want. You know it's the truth, but you're scared to do something. So I prepared a white man telling you about the Federal Reserve. Now he's not going to mention. I got another video that I got prepared, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to show it this evening. But I'm going to show this video to show you that if you don't unite, you will be permanent slaves. Now, this is a white man saying this, but he's only talking to his people. He ain't talking about the black man. If he, mentions the black man, it only is because he needs you to help him. Don't forget, white men, they do fight each other. Just like Russia is fighting Ukraine. Both of them are white, but they fighting each other. And then we go over there and help them fight each other. But Allah wants you to sit these wars out. But of course, you're going to know that a lot of people ain't listening, don't even have the ability to have YouTube and to have to have iPhones or whatever. So it's up to you to let this. I'm proposing 144 million man march. And you ain't got to leave out your house. You can organize over. You can organize over the internet. You can organize over the internet. just like Trump did when he gave that rally at the White House, you know, and they overran the White House. He organized over the internet. If you use the internet right, you could organize. That's what they do all the time. How you think they protest? You know, they protest around the world on the same day. They use the internet. So check this out, and then we're going to, if I come back to you, I don't know if they're going to post this one or not. The name of this is The Creature from Jekyll's Island. You remember Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Dig that. That's why they call it Jekyll Island.
Again, that's Wolf NYC, WOLFNYC.com. G. Edward Griffin, welcome to the What is Money Show.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Robert. It's a pleasure.
It's a real honor to have you here. As I was just telling you offline, you are the man that inspired me, I think, to originally start investigating the nature of money. I read The Creature from Jekyll Island, the book which you are an author of, almost 20 years ago. And I think you definitely planted the seed with me of the question, what is money? You have a subchapter in your book by that very title. So I think first I need to just thank you for writing the book and inspiring my work.
Well, thank you very much. You know, as we mentioned just before going on to the recording, when I wrote that book years ago, I had no idea that very many people would read it. I thought, well, this is just for the record. Maybe someday in the future, somebody will want to know what happened.
Yeah.
But to my amazement, people have read it. And so I'm very grateful for you, Robert. And thanks for inviting me, because it's part of my my dream that we could build some kind of an awareness and a crusade to purify the system of corrupt banking. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, sir. And I think the crusade is now well underway. Seems like in the digital age, people are asking more questions. People are having more peer-to-peer conversations. Truth seems to be coming to the surface more quickly in different domains. I think that.
Remember now, this is only for the white people. You are not to fight their cause. You are to separate and unite.
Bitcoin has energized the conversation around money. And the scam that is central banking is definitely having some light thrown on it. So I think that is a good thing.
Right.
I thought we would start today actually at the conclusion of your book. Many people in my audience are familiar with The Creature from Jekyll Island. They're familiar with central banking. We talk a lot about central banking. We talk a lot about the nature of money. But I wanted to just read some excerpts from the conclusion to your book and then ask you a really broad question about the overall thesis. So at the end of your book, you enumerate 7 reasons we should abolish the Federal Reserve System, which are: it is incapable of accomplishing its stated objectives. It is a cartel operating against the public interest. It is the supreme instrument of usury. It generates our most unfair tax. It encourages war. It destabilizes the economy. And it is an instrument of totalitarianism. And as you conclude the book, you write, the creature has grown large and powerful since its conception on Jekyll Island. It now roams across every continent and compels the masses to serve it, feed it, obey it, worship it. If it is not slain, it will become our eternal Lord and Master. Can it be slain? Yes, it can. How will it be slain? By piercing it with 1,000,000 lances of truth. Who will slay it? A million crusaders with determination and courage. Crusade has already begun. So I want to ask you just a very broad question about the book, given that conclusion. What is The Creature from Jekyll Island? Why is it malevolent to the core? And what can be done about it?
Well, basically, all three questions were answered to some extent by the list that you just reviewed. The core to the answer of what it is an understanding of what a cartel is. A lot of people today think that a cartel is, well, that's the drug cartel. They associate that word with drug cartel today. And but of course, the word cartel is a long-term legitimate word to describe a grouping of commercial interests. Any kind, could be drug, but mostly in the real world, drug cartels are a relatively minor player compared to banking, for example. It's a conglomeration or grouping of independent business enterprises which had decided to stop competing with each other and join together and cooperate to control their mutual market, to eliminate competition so that they can increase their profits and not have to worry about competing with newcomers and so forth. In other words, to improve their profits and to eliminate the choice of the consumer. So cartels are logical evolution of business enterprises. As long as government stays out of it, they don't last very long because competition always creeps in and somebody else wants to be the chief dog. And so first thing you know, they have another competitor and another one. And finally, you're back to the free market again. But when government steps in, because members of the cartel are very wise in this regard, they spend a tremendous amount of their profit money to buy politicians. And they buy the politicians who write laws which sound to the public like they're wonderful because they're protecting the people and assisting the economy and improving a standard of living and all that sort of propaganda. But in reality, it's just to prevent the public from having a choice in these matters. And so cartels always get together and they fix prices and share markets and so forth to the detriment of the consumer. And so the Federal Reserve, in answer to the first question, is what it is. It's a cartel. It's no different than a banana cartel, a drug cartel, an oil cartel. It happens to be a banking cartel. So that's what it is. And the people understood that, and they understood that it is not, repeat, not an agency of the federal government. It is a private organization, which is a stunning reality. It certainly was to me. Most people find that hard to believe. But the Federal Reserve is a conglomerate or a cartel of private banks. And these banks were the bankers were so wise in their actions that they, back in 1910, they began the propaganda campaign to draft and create the Federal Reserve. And then in 1913, they actually passed it into law. It meaning the Federal Reserve Cartel Agreement. And there's a little history involved there. It's why I call my book The Creature from Jekyll Island, is because it's not because Jekyll Island has a creature that comes out of the slimy lagoon or anything like that. It's worse. It's because the Federal Reserve comes out of this private, very secret meeting that took place on Jekyll Island, which is a real island off the coast of Georgia back in 1910. And is made up of representatives of the largest banks in the United States with their connections, their brotherhood, and the big banks in Europe as well. So it was done in secret, private organization of bankers coming together, agreeing not to compete with each other anymore, and to form like a labor union for plumbers or something like that. They're going to regulate their economy, so make it cushy for the plumbers, but you've got to pay the same rate to all plumbers or have to charge the same rate and so forth. And so you can't have any plumbers coming in and say, well, I can do that cheaper, because it gets drummed out of out of the union if he does that. He's not in the union in the first place. So they formed this banking cartel on Jekyll Island, and that was the beginning of it all. And then they took this cartel agreement that they drafted among themselves to benefit themselves in the economy. They took it to Washington, and they took 3 years to convince the congressmen there and the senators that this would be a great opportunity for them to become statesmen and vote for it and stabilize the economy and all that sort of thing. When in fact, it was a private cartel agreement. And I don't think many of those congressmen and senators really understood that at the time. They just thought it was a piece of legislation that they didn't understand, but surely the bankers understood it. And so they just eventually all buckled under, and they voted for it into law in 1913. So coming to the conclusion of this long ladder of information is that they have a cartel agreement to preserve and expand the power of the banks, a private agreement. They take it to Washington. They convince the politicians to pass the private agreement into law called the Federal Reserve Act. Now, a private agreement suddenly becomes law of the land. And so if you and I do not abide by the terms of the private agreement, we can go to prison. But it's not a government creation, it's a private creation, but the government just was stupid enough, these congressmen were idiots enough, to sign it into law and give it the power of the government. So it was a partnership, in another way of looking at it, between the politicians, the political scientists, and the monetary scientists. That's what the Federal Reserve is, a cartel and a partnership between the bankers and the politicians. So that probably tells you enough right there if you understand what's going on in the world. But the details beyond that are extremely fascinating. So the other parts of your questions, what can be, jumping to the end, what can be done about it? I use the metaphor of 1,000 spears, or what was the word I used? Knives or something to cut it.
A million lances of truth.
Lances of truth, yeah. Well, yeah, but it takes more than truth, Robert. You know, there's an old saying, which I used to use a lot, and then I began to realize that it was a bunch of bonnet. The old saying is that truth will ultimately prevail if enough energy is spent to bring it to light. And that's not true, because truth by itself has a great deal of power. But if men are cowardly to stick to the truth, it fails. So it takes courage besides truth. It takes manly action. It takes a strong stance. It takes organization. It takes the acquisition of political power, because you're fighting political power, and truth by itself is not strong enough. You have to take that truth and convert it into action. And this is something that took me a long time to realize over the years, that we've had the truth. We've been, people like me, long before me, been yelling the truth, screaming it from the housetops, but nobody heard it because it was banned in a way. It was not popular. So most people, including myself, never heard the truth. You've got to hear the truth. And then, you know, we see today people know a lot of truth, but they're afraid to act on it. I'll just take a moment and say, take a look at what's happening in our health field right now with this thing, this non-truth called COVID. The official story of that is so different than what most people think. No. And if anybody stands up and says, but wait a minute, that's not true, and they want to tell the truth, they're banned from the internet and so forth. So the truth by itself is powerless. Well, not powerless, but it's not enough. It's not the complete story. So we get back to the question of what can be done about it. Not only do we have to write books about it, not only do we have to talk about it, hold lectures on it, and send emails on it, and hold meetings and so forth like that. Right. We have to require and reacquire, I should say, the political power, the influence over writing the laws. First, the thing that has to be done is to abolish the Federal Reserve System.
The only thing that we have to do, black people, is to separate, unite, and claim our independence from this corrupt, unrighteous, and unholy society. We ain't gonna try to change no laws, nothing like that. We just want to be separate. The only thing we should ask is for a territory or a land for our 400 years of slavery that they owe us really more than that. But they're not going to give it to us. But if we unite and separate, Allah will give us this land. All of it. Even the burnt crispy parts. This is black light. The kind of flavor, the saving, the kind of knowledge you won't get in college. All praise is due to Allah, who came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad, and raising up among us a leader, teacher, and guide, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the greatest messenger of all time. It's black light. Until next time, I'm gonna try to come back as soon as I can. Because this is not finished. This subject is not finished. Because what they want to do is put you in permanent slavery. And they're working their way close to it. So assalamu alaikum. May you have a peaceful, pleasant night's sleep and an early, happy morning rise. Peace. Assalamu alaikum.